Hi guys, this is Geeks Assembled, and we are talking about a Jane Fonda movie. Oh my gosh, have we got a blast from the past for you? This is Barbarella from the 60s, 70s, whatever. It's so hip, it hurts. You know, this is a movie for the young people and the crazy people and the people with like science fiction fantasies, really. And so in it we've got this we got this podcast about it, so there are some people around here who want to talk about this movie, and I'm sure that well, this time around I'm going to start with Lee because nobody ever starts with Lee anymore because he's anyway, so go for it, Lee.
Nobody starts with me because I always win. Are we on about fighting?
No. We're on about Barbarella.
Oh, yeah. Barbarella. It's a movie of its time. This was 1968. Fresh from the Summer of Love, 67, free love. And you get that vibe from it. It's science fiction. It's not to be taken too seriously. It's a romp.
That's one word for it.
And it is dated, but it shot Jane Fonda into the stratosphere. Stardom wise. I enjoyed it. I hadn't seen it for years and years. They couldn't make it now, but it's very colourful, and the scenery and all like that is just out of this world as it's supposed to be. I enjoyed it because it's not. People say it's a cult classic now, but some people love it, some people hate it. It's just one of those movies in the middle where it divides opinion. But you just take it for what it is. It's just nothing in it serious. That's my opening thoughts for now. I'll get back into my favourite moments later on.
All right, Alex, what's your opening thoughts about Barbarella, Queen of the Universe?
Well, I mean, I heard a lot about it. It is a cult movie. Visually, it's good. They have some good pop ideas, I guess. The soundtrack is good. As far as the writing, no. As far as the characters, barely. It started reminding me of other bad movies from the 70s and 80s, unfortunately. Where, what is it? What's the name of it? Even Flash Gordon. It reminded me a little bit visually of that. So, yeah, when I first saw this, I was a little bit shocked. The writing isn't very good. Again, it's an interesting idea. It is the 60s. They were trying to push the envelope. They were trying to be bold and daring. But even I kind of went, why, there's barely any reason to like these characters. They go from one weird thing to another. So visually, musically, it has ideas. Whether they really work or not, I'm not sure. And I think this was just to push the envelope so you could get more bold in the choices. Remember that, they were trying to also push a lot of French New Wave, and this sort of reminds me of that, even though the actual films are probably written better than this one. And what was this? Also Vadim, too, who was trying to push Brigitte Bardot and other models, actresses, type of thing. So, I mean, I guess it's important it's important in the sense that it was trying to change movies and be more bold and daring. But as far as, I think the book or the comic book might have been better written than this movie. But it's, if you want to see something different, there was a lot of great movies in the 60s that visually were very, interesting, even as interesting or more interesting than now. It just goes to show you, a good idea or a happy accident with the special effects is still better than a lot of computer generated stuff.
Throw it to Brian.
Okay, Brian.
Hello.
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 Opening thoughts, dude.
Is it me you're looking for?
Opening thoughts.
Have any?
Okay.
What? Any thoughts?
Opening.
So
I don't.
it's what can I say about this movie? It's just
I don't know. What can you say about it, Brian? Very
It's-
little by the sounds of it.
it's
Okay, all right, Brian, go ahead and say what you're going to say, sweetie.
it's a
It's a film. Well done. Let's move on.
one
Let him talk. Go on.
it's one hell of a movie. I could tell you that. It's
True.
but Alex is right. It did have like a Flash Gordon type of feel to it. And I was also getting a sense of like the Star Wars Christmas special
Oh my God.
as well.
How? Okay, draw that parallel for me, okay?
Was there any bondage in that?
Well, if you count the virtual porn in this Star Wars Christmas
There
story,
was virtual porn.
that-
He is
that-
correct, but there was real
that is
bondage
true.
and titties in this.
We have to give him credit for that one.
I mean, it was full on display tits.
yeah.
Well, I could explain more, but I don't want to
I
go
think
about the whole podcast.
Alex has got a very big smile on his face for that scene.
because if
Alex
you
is thinking
remember,
that
it's
reminds me of the
it's
other night when we
Wookiee-
were putting up that bookshelf in
the
the bedroom.
Wookiee family, the Wookiee family watching the videos, and you know that was pretty.
Alex,
I mean,
we're not
Not
talking
even, we don't have to talk about
Star
that.
Trek, the holiday
mean,
special,
half
Star Wars
the time I
holiday
was-
special.
half the time when I was watching this movie, it did kind of. I mean, the budget and the effects were very, very low budget and
It had a
cheesy
budget.
at times. Well, you know what I mean. It's like it's very cheesy.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Very,
It was
very
cheap.
Yes, but there were times at the when I was watching this, it very reminded me of a parody porno.
All right. Well, there have been a bunch of parody pornos of this particular movie.
What pornos have you been watching that anything like this?
There's Barbarella parody porns. So of course, if he ran into that first before he saw the actual
Well, he better
movie,
look where he's running then, doesn't he?
No,
that's
no,
where he would be.
I mean, there were
Am I
some-
right?
I mean, there's some parodies I've
I'm right.
seen out there, but that's another story.
I know I'm right. Okay, so over to you, Alad.
But
Well, Brian, it's my turn now. Shut up.
all right, go ahead, Dickbod.
We'll get back to you, man. We'll get back to you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, sorry, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it was an interesting watch. I liked that it was colourful. I thought it was funny. I thought there were lots of scenes that it was funny. It was bizarre enough to be amusing and cheap enough to be amusing. And I like how colourful it was. I like the inside of her ship. It's all nice and fluffy. You can just imagine spending just the day just rolling around
I can't imagine
in all
cleaning that.
the fur. And I just wondered how many teddy bears did they have to kill to deck the whole of that ship out in all that fur.
It was Ewoks. They killed the Ewoks.
I mean, it must have took a lot of Wookiees. Yeah. And there's the only problem I have with this film, and it's a really big issue that I have. Okay, so you see the titties with the women and the bondage and all that, but you never see it with the men.
So you wanted the angel naked?
Well, yeah. I mean, why are we seeing?
We have
these
2
women
votes,
naked?
yes. I would
Why are
say
we
3
seeing-
votes, yes.
Why are we seeing the women naked, but he's got his clothes on?
Well, hold on.
That's society.
You see.
That's sexist.
No, you see the topless. The man
Yeah,
was
I
topless.
don't. Yeah,
The man was topless.
yeah.
There
But
was none of the below stuff.
It's different.
No, but there should
There
have
was
been
lots
with
of butts. There was lots of butts, though.
Yeah. Should have been with him. I like the scene with the snapping dolls. That was good. They were quite funny, and the purple rabbits as well. They actually dyed rabbits purple.
Couldn't do that now.
No, you couldn't do that now. No.
Only if you used animal-friendly dye.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, there is such a thing.
Ah. Yeah. So I thought it was quite. I thought it was quite amusing. I thought it was quite entertaining. It's quite insane in places. I mean, one of the funniest scenes is where they're both having futuristic sex, and his hair's blowing and her hair's blowing, and then his hands steaming, and they're going like that. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was kind of fun.
And the piano scene was
There
just
were
really
drugs. I told you, it needs drugs.
weird. The piano scene was just really weird. Where she's in this great big piano, and you've got Bojo over there just going, you know, and it's pressing on her like that, giving her a massage. And of course, she blows up the machine, doesn't she? So yeah, I quite enjoyed it. It's not too bad. I mean, it's an awful. Don't get me wrong, it's an awful film.
Okay.
Awful film.
So
I enjoyed watching it.
Okay, so Susan, opening thoughts, please.
Well, if it hadn't just
Susan loved it.
I did. It was my
She's the biggest fan.
I was.
Out of all of us, Susie's the biggest fan.
I am. The chat on Facebook, I was raving about it.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 she gave it.
Yeah, I did. Well, if it hadn't just simply been an excuse to put softcore porn in a big screen, I probably would have liked it. But that's all it was. It was an excuse for this misogynist director to put softcore porn on a screen. He should have gone all the way and made it an X movie. Then I might have liked it, but he didn't. And Alan is absolutely right. If he had gone all the way and done full frontal and everything, then it would have been rated X, and it would have been an entirely different ball game. But with the same budget, he probably could have made an excellent porno movie. But this was not supposed to be a porno movie. This was supposed to be a sci-fi movie.
Susie just wants to watch a porno.
I do. Of course I do. Who doesn't really want to watch porno sometimes, you know? Okay. So, you know, I mean, come on, everybody's Brian's eyes. Lord God, you people, grow up. So anyway,
Susan can't stop thinking about it now.
My point is that the movie just sucked, and it would have made an excellent porno flick, and he should have gone all the way and just done that. But my biggest problem with this movie is, for many, many years, I kept hearing about Barbarella and seeing the poster of Jane Fonda in the costumes. I mean, look at the costume behind Susan. That's not so bad, right? That's a great costume.
Oh, no. Don't you knock the silver boots. I love the silver boots.
I never said anything against silver boots. I love a good pair of boots. So the problem is that it's an iconic word, and people see the poster and they know Jane Fonda is now she's very much a feminist, right? And I first started to be aware of Jane Fonda because of her aerobics classes. So that's where I started to know her from. She's had many, many different phases in her life.
Don't forget to breathe.
She did many movies before this movie, but this movie brought her into consciousness, and of course, why wouldn't it? They went through 3 different actresses, including Sophia Loren, to do this movie, and they all turned it down. And it's just a horrible, horrible flick. I am a big fan of Godzilla movies. I love great B movies. I really just love sitting back and watching bad Godzilla movies, and it is so much fun. But this was not even that. This was, I can't imagine that the comic book itself that they bought the rights to was this bad. If it was, it's just, no, I read about her marriage to this director, and it was horrendous, and he was just a very not nice person. So this movie sucked. Don't watch it unless you want to see a bad porno flick that's not even really porno. Then you can go ahead and watch it.
All right.
If you're looking for a stone cultural thing, avoid it at all costs.
All right. So so I'm gonna let you know who some of the other cast was, and because I mean, just the fact that this was, it had John Philip Law as the angel Pygar, and it had Anita Pallenberg as the Great Tyrant. Anita Pallenberg is a really good actress, and it had Milo O'Shea as Durand Durand, and Milo O'Shea was in a ton of other stuff too.
Mhm.
And Claude Dauphin was the president of Earth, and Veronique Vendel was Captain Moon. And so I mean, they were the standard, but then there was this other actor who hadn't really done much spoken stuff and much things.
Oh, is this the Marcel?
And it was Marcel Marceau. He played Professor Ping, and he actually spoke in it.
Oh,
Ding.
did not know that.
Let me see.
Still not worth watching.
Gosh
That
darn
was,
it.
yeah, that was the first time you'd ever spoken on film.
Yeah, and so I mean, like as a moment in film history and in art history, really, this was when the mime spoke, and that was a trip.
It wasn't the mind that was speaking.
No, but he was a mime. Like that was his whole. That was
Mind,
how
what
he.
you said.
That was
Mind.
how he was super famous. He was 100% famous for being a mime.
do you know
and
what?
the fact that there was so many French people.
Yeah, hold
I mean,
on.
this wasn't porn. This was French movie making. Okay, because if you watch French movie making, a lot of it is really sort of female focused, dancey sort of stuff, like all the vampire movies by Jean Pardin. They are all incredibly
Hold on.
interesting.
Hold on, let's go to our porn expert because he's done a bit of porn. Lee, was this porn?
No.
No, it's French movie making, and see, I just think that because we're sort of in cultural in a cultural genre as much as science fiction genre, you kind of tend to miss the fact that it's French, except for the fact that this was made by some French people.
It is a bit Flash Gordon, but it's also a bit Carry On.
So it's French.
It was
It's a bit
made
Carry
by
On.
Roger Vadim, who was French, and it was written by Jean-Claude Forest from
Yes,
the
Susie.
Barbarella, the bestseller that he wrote, Barbarella, and Terry Southern helped with but a lot of people helped with a lot of French people helped with the screenplay. Okay, so my point is not
Oh, we're getting to the
necessarily
point.
not necessarily porn, but French. And if you don't remember that French movie making in the 60s and 70s and 80s was pretty much all female-oriented, male fantasy-based.
Yeah.
That's part of who they are in their culture. And I mean, the idea that we can judge that from an American and or British standpoint without remembering that it's French, that it's freaking French. I mean, that's what Eddie Izzard would say. It's just freaking French.
Okay, can I see this?
Anyway.
Was it French, was it?
So yeah, I mean, there's other
Maybe the
movies that I
French
can't
came
even
from it.
mention here because they are incredibly racy with full nudity. But
Who?
That's what I'm saying.
but it also shows the men as well. So remember
Oh,
that
really?
we're,
We need to
That's what
we're
I'm
watch that.
looking
saying.
right. So we're looking at it from a very sort of Puritan Western.
No, we're not from Puritan, but we're
Yeah, but
American and British, but not French.
Right.
French movie.
I know.
Okay.
I'm very
It's
well aware of that.
It's
But I'm
French.
saying that
Is it
they
French?
have other fantasies and other movies that was a lot more racy than this. For the 60s, this was okay that it was trying to, become mainstream. But I'm saying there were other movies that were a lot more racier and a lot more nudity than this. but I can't mention that because they're not available for anybody to really see.
That's why I mentioned the vampire movies, because they were. And the other thing that was really interesting about this was, as Susan had said, it went through 3 different actresses, all who are French. Okay, so anyway, my point is French. And so now we need the Saunders part of this. Let's go back over to Lee.
Right. Yes, I agree. I totally agree with what Susan's saying about the French era of movie making. I acknowledge all that. As you've done a roll call of all the actors and stuff in there. I mean, yeah, it was brilliant to see Marcel Marceau as Doctor is it Professor Ping.
Yes, correct.
But it's also good to see an early role for John Philip Law as Pygo the Angel, because he later, about 5 years later, he played Sinbad alongside Tom Baker.
Tom Baker.
Yeah. And also you had Anita Pallenberg, but she was dubbed in this movie.
I didn't know that.
By English actress Joan Greenwood, a very famous actress. So English speaking can't have been that good. I'm boring you, Ali, because I've been hearing you singing through everybody's when they're speaking.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, we'll stop singing then, please. I call it rude.
What?
You singing when everybody's speaking.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't think
Alan.
you hear me.
Mute yourself. I'm sorry. Say without this movie, we would never have got the band Durand Durand because of the character Durand Durand.
I was going to ask about that. Is that where the name came from?
Oh yeah. Making people orgasm with a synthesizer? That's what Durand Durand is. Okay,
That's where it came from.
Yeah, actually, it's not a very good movie. Admittedly, it isn't. It's as Ali said, it's colourful. It's a fun watch. It's not to be taken seriously. I enjoyed it. I saw it a few years ago, and it was good to sit down and rewatch it again. I mean, seeing a pair of titties, as Ali says, titties, and a bit of leather, the leather men. But me and Ali was talking about this earlier. I've seen worse Carry On movies than this.
Yep.
There's actually worse things than this.
Yeah, you won't even know what Carry On movies are, Brian. No, but
we did Carry On Screaming. That was our very first podcast.
Very first cast.
It was just fun to sit down and watch something different from a different the 60s era, as Susan has pointed out, by the French movie studios. Brilliant. It was
a French film, is it?
Yeah. So now you can go over to the Singing Cavalier now, Ali.
All right, bounce over there.
What are we doing?
Your favorite moments or whatever else you want to talk about.
Oh, I've kind of given my favorite moments, really.
All right, that's cool. So let's go to Brian.
All right, my turn now.
Yeah, your turn now.
I haven't given my favorite moments yet.
Thought you just said you did, Alan.
Brian, it's up to you.
If Alan hasn't gone,
Brian, it's up to you. Go.
Okay.
Oh, that's what I remembered. The password is that Welsh town name. That go gloch gloch upwards gloch gloch. Yeah, that. Yeah, and they managed to kind of say it. I think. I don't know how you pronounce it, but that was the password anyway.
Okay. You good?
Oh yeah, and when the levers didn't work and the lever broke. Yeah, that was pretty funny, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Brian, carry on.
Go on, Brian.
Okay, great. Go back to singing.
Singing what?
Into the unknown. God
Yeah,
knows.
well,
Into the unknown. For
You
the
get
first
stuff and
time
sing.
in forever.
At least according to Lee, that's what you're good at. So go.
Oh, thank you.
He's not good at that. No.
Thank you, Lee.
Anywho,
Didn't know you said that, but I'll take that.
Anywho, favorite moments upon my part of the movie. I would say probably my favorite moments would probably have to be from when what's it called, when she first arrives on the planet and she gets captured by the children and they
Yeah, and the little robot, snapping robot thing.
they
The
pull
dolls.
out these little freaky dolls with teeth after her. It's creepy but a little bit cool at the same time. It was just like, what the hell is, like, what is that? I mean, it was like a little bit of horror. But I mean, it was a cool. I mean, I think it was a cool effect for its time and for like what they did. But it was. I liked it. It was cool. And probably my other favorite moment of the movie would have to be the. I guess the when she breaks the piano machine.
The orgasm
Yeah.
synthesizer.
Yeah.
You like that, did you, Brian?
Well, I can't say about me, but maybe you, if you.
No, listen, this is all about you. This is all about you, dude.
Can I just point out, that scene, what we're talking about there, Brian? I think that a scene worse than that is in When Harry Met Sally.
That's true.
Yeah.
I never seen that movie.
That scene in Barbarella is tame compared to When Harry Met Sally.
But the scene in Barbarella is like so quote unquote real, where when Harry Met Sally is acting by actors.
And
So that's the difference there.
and also, I think probably the thing I also liked is the big reveal and twist of like her finding the scientist, and he comes to be like a big madman.
Oh, I thought that was obvious.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I saw that coming.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Mm.
Cool.
And I must say, her spaceship, the inside of her inside,
And there was a lot of it.
Her inside of her spaceship with all the fur and everything, that reminded me very well of a porno set.
Uh-huh.
So
It reminded me of Dumb and Dumber, the vehicle.
and her space uniform, like the
That
gray
was a
one,
dog. It had like brown fur over it.
like the silver type outfit that she had on. It reminded me a bit from Star Trek, like from one of the Star Trek episodes.
But everything was somewhat sexual, wasn't it? Every sort of scenery was something sexual, like the ship.
I think it was.
Here's Alex.
Brian's
Are
still
you done?
talking, but
Are you done?
You just interrupted Brian.
No, but
Listen, I was just I heard a pause. I was curious.
He's just thinking.
Can we move on, or do you have another one?
No,
you can move on. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right. I'm not being rude, Alan. I just heard a pause. Okay, here's Alex. What are your favorite moments?
So, like I said, this is trying to help the French New Wave, basically. And again, it has great visuals. Remember, this is all before computers. It has great music. Even the costumes are interesting. It's the characters and the dialogue is pretty pretty weak. But yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, basically, if I was to watch this movie a third time, it pretty much would be with most of the time with the sound off. Visually, it's good. The opening credits are good. The music's good. As far as the actual movie, yeah, I really can't think of too many scenes that I actually like. But again, that was the mid '60s. There's been a lot wilder stuff now.
The women strung up in the hallways.
Yeah, I don't like that. But I mean, it's great. Remember, too, that this is also the era where this is before the internet. This is before where you have this great movie art. And this is another movie that has, great artistic, just like, and also it kind of reminds me of Coma, where they had all those sleeping dead bodies kind of hanging by strings. And that was what, like 6 years after this movie, Coma?
Yeah.
Or whatever, or maybe 10 years after.
79.
Yeah, because the book came out first, but yeah, so that kind of art, and you don't really have that in movie theaters and movie posters now. We have this really great creepy art, like the Jaws, poster and the Coma poster and all that. We have this art that you go, wow, and once you see it, you don't forget it. So,
all right, Susan. Go for it.
I think this was a lost opportunity. It may have been a French movie, but it was advertised to American audiences starring an American actress, and that was how it was presented. So what I wish it had been is like a female James Bond kind of campy movie that really focused on the whole, not going about any further than James Bond movies do. I would have been okay with that, but this was too much for me, quite frankly. I don't enjoy watching excessive sex or violence in my entertainment as a rule. If it's there, I fast forward through it. I really just don't like it. So,
where was the sex?
I'm not even going there. Anyway, it just was not, it wasn't a good movie for me, and that was really disappointing because everything in my head that I knew about it, I thought it was going to be like a great B Godzilla movie type thing with this. I thought it was going to be like Flash Gordon for women. That's what I was expecting. So I was not pleasantly, no, I'm not done yet. I was not pleasantly surprised. So
were there any moments were there any moments that stood out for you as being like ugly and wrong and stuff?
Almost all of it was ugly and wrong. I mean, the whole thing was just misogynistic, and it was about just, if they hadn't gone as far as it did, I would have enjoyed it. But it went as far as it did, and it kept going further and further and further and further. And finally, I was like, "Fuck this! I'm not even watching it anymore." So
did you see the bondage scene?
That's where I gave up. That's where I turned it off.
And you didn't see the piano scene either, so.
No, I missed that one, thankfully. So I got in. That was where I gave up. So I had enough. And obviously, this genre is not for me. So I would give it a 0. It's too bad because I thought the costumes were cool, and I know the actors tried, but this director should have made it into a porno flick, and they should have advertised it as such. Yeah. But I'm not expecting that at all. All
right. The difference is in culture is obviously, it doesn't make any. It doesn't make any difference, obviously. I guess I see that point for you.
For me, had it been advertised like that, then I would have gone in with my eyes open, and I just wouldn't have watched.
You went in judging it.
No, I went in expecting from what I had always heard about this, she looked like Leela to me, So I was expecting that. I was expecting,
not from the 60s.
In campy costumes and fighting monsters and flying around in spaceships. I was expecting a sci-fi movie. I wasn't expecting what I got.
Oh, wow, you really...
Exactly.
It's nothing like that.
Okay, so if I may, Roger Vadim, unfortunately, is very sexist, chauvinist, especially from our point of view, would be very chauvinistic. He did try to do 3 more 80s movies, and he was roasted for how sexualized they were and how misogynistic they were. But remember, if you're viewing this from a French point of view, it's not that way. Plus, there was another movie with Terrence Stamp, and we all know who Terrence Stamp is, called Modesty Blaise, where the woman was more James Bond. It's a female James Bond, Modesty Blaise. And that movie had more singing. She was a stronger character. She wasn't at the mercy of everybody like the Jane Fonda character seems to be in this movie.
Right. All right. So, because I come with the knowledge that this is pretty French. I mean, I've seen so many more erotic and high energy, no, just listen, high energy, male fantasy films, that it wasn't surprising to me, and I enjoyed some of the scenes. I love the scene of the orgasm synthesizer. I love the scene of all the people sitting around smoking out of the hookah, the essence of man, with a naked guy in a big bubble bong. There were drugs, and I loved all the outer space stuff. Was all sort of the water images, like lava lamp type imagery. And there was lots of that. These are not the right kind, but it's all right. There were lots of that lava lamp imagery that they used to do at the acid tests in California and in New York with Timothy Leary. Yeah, there was that was pretty fun, and the other thing that is that it wasn't as overtly, the women were powerful, like they were ruling this, and so it wasn't as bad as Japanese movies are today, where women are disempowered, and they have usually have amnesia. If they're going to be weaponized, they usually have amnesia. They won't have volitional control over the situation, which is, I mean, there's so many different cultures in movies that you gotta kind of look at things from that perspective. This was one of those ones that they say shows that the French really wanted to make science fiction movies. They really wanted to start off this way, but they never got into the high energy, like laser blaster fight scenes that Star Wars and Star Trek brought from their perspective in. So, and Doctor Who had those, Leela fight scenes and those, other fight scenes that were just like, it changed. This was all sort of sexual fighting, and that sexual fighting was hard for them to turn into something that would actually force the genre to open up to that yet. And so I'm just like, that's where I come from. I come from the perspective where I see that it came from the same field as the the other movies that are French that are really, I mean, and it's not porn. It's not. They're not actually, showing any sort of sexual intercourse of actual people. They, except for that one scene in the spaceship, but they were covered with furs then, and so in that respect, it's kind of like Venus and Furs, the music, the song, and the book by anyway. anyway, so that's where I come from, and let's go to final say and score. Lee.
Well, I enjoyed it. It's to say, it's that you can't ignore the film. It was made. I'm going to give it -6 for all the gratuitous sex scenes, which I must have missed them. But I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it an 8 because I did like to rewatch this again. I totally agree with what Susan said. It's not dated well. It's not, but it's still good to go back there and rewatch something like this of its time, and I enjoyed it. It didn't shock me. There was nothing in it to shock. As Susan said, there's a lot worse out there.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Yeah.
worse out there. I watched that.
And Jane Fonda, I think she's one of the best. She's done a hell of a lot in her career, and she's still going strong. So that's it's minus for the gratuitous sex scenes what I totally missed, and it's an 8 in my opinion.
All right, and Alex, final say and score.
Okay, so I guess I'll give it a 7 only because visually, musically, it does technically have a good cast. But like I said, it's weird because it's trying to be like 4 different movies in one, and that's okay if this is the first time you've seen it. But there's been so many wilder movies since then, even in the French New Wave of the 60s to the 80s. And there's a lot worse movies out there, and there's a lot more gratuitous movies out there. And I'm not going to say the names. You can find it on the internet, other movies that are much more stronger than this. Somewhere the writing also really went off the rails. Visually, it's good. Cast is okay, pretty good. Musically, it's good. It's got a lot of wonderful art type of creations in it. But it is a cult movie. I think it's also because it's one of the first, and I think that unfortunately the director does deserve a lot of heat for the failings. And like I said, he tried to do movies in the 80s that were like this, and it did not work. I mean, even the film critics said, yeah, this worked 20 years ago when you were doing it. It's not going to work now. So he wasn't really smart. And the character should have been written better. It should have had better characters. The story kind of fails. And the books and the comic books are actually better. So I guess this is also the era of not really understanding a comic book, not getting the art maybe of it, but not understanding the like I said, if you want to see another movie that's better, Modesty Blaze with Terrence Stamp is a lot better movie. There's a lot more flirtation. It's better written, better characters. Still have a lot of art because it's an Italian movie. Even the other, what is that? Diabolique, that one was also a better movie than this one.
All right.
So.
All right, cool. Brian, final say and score.
I would probably give this a 7 out of 10.
All right. Any final say?
No, not really, no.
Did you miss any parts of your favorite moments or anything like that you wanted to revisit? Because I'm sorry, I didn't mean not to cut you off.
Nope, I'm good.
You sure?
Yes. And
Going
that is,
once, going twice. Click.
that's my final answer.
Okay. Susan, final say and score.
Well, I came
Score
on
was
this
0. I heard you, but
Well,
final say.
I came on this cast because you guys watched it. I'm part of the group, and Alan asked me to, so I did to be a good sport. So, but I just look. It took me 45 minutes to turn it off. So there were parts of it that I found enjoyable. It was mostly all the times that it was all the sexual bondage and things eating her and birds pecking at her and screaming and just all of the female degradation parts. If they had been more empowered, I would have probably enjoyed it more, but I was just offended. So it's just not for me. But I'm glad other people enjoy it. End of story.
All right, that's cool. Alan, your final say and score?
Yeah, I can see where Susie's coming from. I mean, she was a bit weak, wasn't she? She wasn't very strong.
She wasn't a strong character. It wasn't the
No,
actress's
she wasn't a
fault.
strong character.
No.
The sex in it was way too over the top. The violence was way too over the top. It is basically a soft porn.
Yeah.
But
that's all I'm saying.
I suggest Susie would absolutely love the Forbidden Superhero.
I don't think I've
So
seen
I
that.
recommend that you check that out.
I'm not sure if I should because Lee's laughing up there. So
We'll show you the trailer. You'll absolutely love it. You'll think, oh, that's right up my alley.
okay.
Let's just say there's a lot
Oh,
of
right, Lee. Yeah. Okay. I'm believing that, Alan. Just so much believing that.
you type it in the Forbidden Superhero.
Mm, okay.
And it's not women, it's men. So
Okay.
you'll like it, Susie. Trust me.
Well, then maybe I should.
So
Move on.
I think should I go towards Lee or should I go towards Susie?
You should go wherever you feel comfortable, my dear.
I'll go to Alex.
Go away. Go away.
I'll go to Alex. I always feel comfortable around Alex. I'm going to give it a... Oh, God, what am I going to give it? I'll give it a 6. There you go. It's not a great film. I can't give it any more because we've watched some really amazing films. And it's not an amazing film. It just isn't. Is it amusing? Yeah. Is it funny? In places, yeah. It's crazy. It's funny. It's colourful. But it's not an amazing film because the characters are bad. Well, there really aren't any characters, really, are there? They don't have any character. They're not written very well. There's no backstory or anything to them, any of them. You know, and we've watched some amazing films like Mamma Mia 2, Frozen, Frozen 2. I mean, we've watched some amazing films, and they're
The
nowhere
last
near.
Starfighter I liked better than this.
Yeah.
Wow, that's saying something. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a lot.
So yeah, we've
right,
watched
all
some
right.
amazing films, and this is nowhere near as good as them, but it's still an enjoyable watch.
All right.
So there you go.
There we go. And for me, I'll give it an 8.5 because I've enjoyed this and I enjoy watching it over and over again. I love the Fondas. I think they're great. I think the family of Fondas is amazing people. And
Well, I mean, wasn't she?
just a second.
She's fond of them.
Wasn't she married to the director at the time that this was made?
I have no
she
idea.
was. Yes, she was. That's why she did it. Sorry.
All right. I have no idea. But you know, it's so very French. It's so very trippy. It's so very fun. And that's why I enjoy it. I didn't think we were going to watch this. I didn't ever, you know, I was surprised when it appeared on the schedule this week. And I'm glad I got a chance to see it again. I'll probably watch it again and again. Now that I have a reason to. And yeah, so and I just suggest that anyone who can get in touch with a library or something and find French films, because French films are different. They are really different from US and British filmmaking. US and British filmmaking diverge quite significantly, but then French go, a totally different direction also.
There are some French films that I absolutely love. So it's not just
so some
all French
of the, I'm talking about the stuff from the 60s and 70s primarily. There, once it hits 80s and 90s, there wasn't as much, male fantasy orientation in French movie making, but that's because they couldn't drive it that way. They had to forego their own culture in order to accept like Italian culture and Spanish culture and British culture. It just got watered down. It stopped being so dang flirty. So anyway, that's what happened. The French movies of the 50s, 60s, and 70s were racy and really, really erotic. So anyway, enjoy that. Check it out at your local library. Watch our podcast because we have reviewed. We did start off this whole crazy Geeks Assembled, scenario with a Carry On movie. And we have reviewed a lot of cool stuff over the years. Lots of weird science fiction, definitely some weird science fiction, like Fantastic Voyage. There are a lot of strange people's ideas for that one too, and so that one. So anyway, there were some great ones and there were some not so great ones, but we've reviewed quite a few of them. And so please subscribe to our channel, hit the little notification bell so that you can receive awareness that we have actually put out new product at this
Goodies.
week. Yeah, goodies. And also like and subscribe, or share it around widely. And also come and join us on our social media, because we love to interact with you on social media. People like Lee really need a lot of social interaction on social media, so go ahead and interact with him with us.
What's she doing? That's Alan's job. Don't take Alan's job away.
It's part of his care plan. It's part of his care plan, dear.
Crazy with his podcast.
He doesn't get much attention
All
these
right.
days. He needs.
All right, but that's all right. So from Durand Durand and Barbarella and myself, I'd like to thank you for watching and tune in next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Ta-da.